All right, let's dive into this, huh? Today, we're heading into the Wild West.
Yeehaw!
Well, the digital version at least. Red Dead Redemption 2. Specifically, the man, the myth, the legend, Arthur Morgan.
Oh, yeah, he's a complex one.
We're using this video essay by Fizzy. Really digs into Arthur's past. So what's the deal with Arthur? Just a bad guy, or is there something more? I mean, that's what we're here to figure out. So to understand Arthur, we got to go back to the beginning, right?
Absolutely. Fizzy, he gives us this, pretty rough picture of his early life. Born in 1863, loses his mom super young, ends up raised by his, outlaw father, Lyle.
Not exactly the best start.
No, not ideal.
And it gets worse, right?
Yeah.
Lyle's arrested when Arthur's only 11, dies in custody too. And Arthur even says something like, couldn't have happened sooner. Kind of cold, right?
Yeah, it is. But gotta think about it. You're 11 years old, already seen more hardship than most people see in a lifetime, Then you lose your dad, even if he wasn't the best influence. He's gonna mess you up. That kind of trauma early on, it can really, change how you see right and wrong.
Makes you wonder if he ever even had a chance at a, normal life.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where Dutch van der Linden and Hosea Matthews, they kind of enter the picture. Around 1877, they find Arthur. He's basically alone in the world, and they take him in. Now, Dutch, he's got this whole thing about, freedom and rebelling against a system he sees as corrupt. Sounds good at first, but is it really?
Yeah, is it just an excuse for, being an outlaw?
Right. Is he a true believer or just a great manipulator?
That's what makes Red Dead Redemption so good. These characters, you can't label them easily as good or bad.
You got it. And for young Arthur, who's basically been failed by everyone, Dutch's words, they must have been powerful.
Like a lifeline almost?
Exactly. He's this charismatic, father figure, offers Arthur belonging, a purpose, a twisted sense of justice, maybe.
Yeah, and Arthur thrives in this life.
Yeah.
Learns to shoot, ride, fight, the whole deal. By the time the game starts, he's Dutch's, right-hand man. A total badass, really.
It's kind of like society saying he's a criminal and then Dutch giving him the tools to be exactly that.
Right. But even with, all that, there were these moments where Arthur shows something more. Fizzy mentions the dog Copper and his horse Bodacia. Arthur clearly cared about them a lot. It's surprising, right, given how, tough he acts.
It is. Shows that even back then, he wasn't just a heartless criminal. He was loyal, capable of affection. Those softer parts are there, just maybe buried under all that rough life, the need to survive,
So we've got young Arthur, shaped by tragedy, finding a new family in the Van der Linden gang. He's becoming an outlaw, but we're seeing hints of something deeper.
Mm-hmm.
What happens next? Because I have a feeling things are going to, get even more complicated for him.
Yeah. Things, they definitely take a turn, because now Mary Gillis enters the scene, the love of Arthur's life.
Ah, Mary. Yeah, their story, it really gets to you.
It's that classic, star-crossed lovers kind of thing. They're head over heels, even get engaged. But Mary's family, not exactly thrilled about her being with an outlaw.
I can imagine Arthur's trying to, juggle his love for her with, staying loyal to Dutch, to that whole life. Not an easy situation.
You got it. He wants it all, but sometimes you can't have everything. It's just not how it works. Eventually, it all gets to be too much, and Mary, she breaks things off. Huge blow to Arthur, especially after everything with his parents,
Another, abandonment situation on top of everything else.
Mm-hmm.
That makes you, sympathize with him a little, even if you don't, agree with what he does.
Totally. And this is where Fizzy's take is really interesting. He points out that Arthur doesn't just forget about Mary. She keeps coming back into his life, even years later. Clearly, she left a mark.
So this tough guy, deep down, he's got a broken heart.
Seems like it.
Hmm.
Really makes you think twice about who Arthur is. Right. But the heartbreak, it doesn't end there. There's also, there's Eliza and Isaac.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's a tough one. Arthur's trying to make things work with Eliza and their son, Isaac, even with the whole outlaw thing going on. Sending the money, visiting when he can. Trying to be a father, really.
It's one of those moments where you see, a flash of who Arthur could have been, a good man. Someone capable of love, responsibility.
But then it all goes wrong.
He goes to see them one day and, finds 2 crosses outside their place. They've been murdered. Thieves. It destroys Arthur. Pushes him even further down a bad path.
His worst fears about himself are confirmed, right? He sees it as, karma for his crimes.
Now, is it real remorse or just him trying to, I don't know, deflect the blame? Fizzy doesn't really say, but it's a good question, right? What's going on inside Arthur's head?
You were talking about how his dad's death, even though he didn't, like, mourn it, still affected him. This is way worse. It's like this event, it makes him believe that anything outside the outlaw life just leads to pain.
It makes you think, did he choose this path or was it chosen for him? Is he really the one to blame for all the bad stuff that happens around him? It's something that sticks with you, throughout the whole game.
Okay, so we've got Mary, the lost love, then Eliza and Isaac, this huge tragedy. And Arthur's getting more and more fatalistic. But before we get too deep into that, there's something else Fizzy mentions that I thought was interesting. John Marston?
Ah, yeah, John. Can't forget about him. He's taken in by Dutch, just like Arthur was, and they form a pretty strong bond.
A bond that, becomes super important in the whole Red Dead Redemption story. But for anyone who hasn't played the first game, who is John Marston? Why should we care about him and Arthur?
Well, without getting into spoilers, John represents a chance for, like, a different kind of life. Something Arthur might want deep down, but doesn't think he can have. He sees a little of himself in John, but also a chance for something better.
So when John leaves the gang, it's more than just a friend leaving, right? It's like a symbol of hope walking away.
Exactly. Arthur, he feels betrayed, abandoned, even though on some level he probably gets why John did it.
There it is again, that theme of being abandoned. Every time Arthur tries to grab onto something good, something stable, it's just gone.
And it makes that belief even stronger that he doesn't deserve love, happiness, a normal life. He just digs in deeper to being an outlaw, gets even tougher.
Which, makes you wonder, is that toughness, is that who he really is? Or is it all an act, a way to protect himself from getting hurt again?
Could be both. He's been hurt, hardened by everything he's been through. But under all that, there's still something else. A little bit of good, maybe even wanting to, I don't know, make things right.
We've covered a lot. Arthur's gone from this lost kid to a tough outlaw. But we've seen those moments, where the real him shines through.
And that's what makes him so interesting. He's not just a bad guy. He's complicated, full of contradictions. A real person, shaped by all this stuff he couldn't control.
So how does it all end? Does Arthur just give in to the bad? Or does he break free from his past? That's the big mystery, huh? Does Arthur just accept his fate? Or does he try to change? Fizzy doesn't get into, like, the details of what happens in the game, but he kind of hints that Arthur does change.
Yeah, he definitely suggests that. It's interesting, right? The video focuses on Arthur's past, mostly, but also points to how he grows during the game. Even after everything he's done, there's a chance for him to, find some redemption.
Redemption for an outlaw, huh? That seems, I don't know, kind of impossible. How can someone who's done so much bad stuff, so much violence, how can they even start to make things right?
Well, it's definitely not easy. In the game, it really explores that struggle. Look, without spoiling anything specific, I think it's safe to say that, Arthur has to face the consequences of what he's done. He starts to question everything he believes in, everything he's done.
Yeah, makes sense. He's lost so much, seen so much pain caused by himself, by others. It's gotta change him somehow.
For sure. It makes you wonder, what is it that makes him change? Is it like one specific thing that happens, or a conversation maybe, or just realizing how much pain he's caused?
I think it's probably a bunch of things all happening at once. He's surrounded by people who are, I don't know, either stuck in that cycle of violence or trying to get out of it. Like John, he's trying to make a better life for himself or his family.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, part of Arthur wants that too.
Yeah, that's a good point. John trying to be, normal, that could really stand out to Arthur, make him think about his own life, his choices. Could be a source of, like, hope, but also, maybe a little envy too.
So let's go back to that question we started with. Was Arthur Morgan a good guy?
I don't think it's that simple. We've seen how cruel he can be, how, ready he is to use violence. But we've also seen his loyalty, how he loved Mary, how he tried to be a father to Isaac. It's complicated.
He's a walking contradiction, right? Shaped by this, like, brutal world, but still capable of doing good. And that's what makes him so interesting to think about, to talk about.
It's like he's fighting with himself, trying to balance the good and the bad. And I think, that resonates with people, because we all have those moments where we're not sure if we did the right thing. We all make mistakes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We might not be outlaws robbing banks and stuff, but We all have to make tough choices, deal with the consequences. It's part of being human.
Exactly. Arthur's story, it's like a reflection of that. It's about, how our past affects us, the possibility of changing, even when it seems impossible, the choices we make when things are really, really hard.
So, to answer the question, I don't think it's our place to say if Arthur was good or bad. We've talked about the facts, looked at different sides of him. Now it's up to you, the listener, to decide.
And if you want to really dig into all this, there's no better way than to play Red Dead Redemption 2 yourself. See Arthur's journey firsthand. The struggles, the wins, the losses. You might even, I don't know, see a little bit of yourself in there.
This has been a really interesting deep dive, wouldn't you say? Started with a simple question about a video game character and ended up talking about, like, morality, choices, what it means to be human. It just shows you never know where these things will lead, huh?
That's the truth. That's what makes exploring, thinking critically so much fun. You never know what you'll discover.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you to think about those big questions. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those questions, and keep diving deep.